duplicate the graph we just created and call this Q7. So in Q7 we want to show the average for the entire company instead. Remember here we're filtering away all the sites that are not New York sites, so we include no transactions unless they are from New York, and then this average represents the average sales amount for all the transactions are in New York. But if we want the average sales amount for all transactions across all sites, well, anything we put in here is going to be subjected to this filter unless we use an LOD statement, and more specifically a fixed LOD statement. So fixed LOD statements are applied before the filters is applied, and then the results from the fixed LOD statements get subjected to the filter and all other groups, but only to the extent that the level of detail is finer from the output of the LOD statement than it is in the view. So anyway, we're going to be creating a new LOD statement, and I have actually already created this one, so I'm going to go ahead and open that and show it to you. So what this one is saying curly brackets, that indicates it's an LOD statement, and then fixed is saying it's a fixed LOD statement, and then I'm grouping based on trans type. I don't want to average sales across both purchases and sales. In this instance, since I'm averaging sales, which contains null values for all purchases, I could actually skip this trans type grouping, because any transaction that's of type purchases will simply contain null and not impact this average. But I feel like this is conceptually better. So now I'm essentially creating two groups, one for orders and one for sales, and then I'm averaging sales in those two groups. Of course, the group that only have purchases then receives a null value here, and the group that has sales transactions receives an average, and that average is for all transactions no matter location or date. And then I'm simply going to drag this into the graph, and now I'm getting a new average here, and this average is for the entire company. So average of each sales transaction, what is the average sales amount? I want this average though in the same graph, so what I need to do is I need to create a dual axis graph. I'm then going to synchronize the axis, and I'm going to hide this axis because they're now the same. I don't need measure names on here because I'm just repeating the same employees again. And now the average is unfortunately below the 14 here, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to 13K instead. And now we have our axis, and now we have the graph with company-wide average. But we need to explain what this line here actually is. And by the way, I want to remove this trend line here. And then I need to describe what this is, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add an annotation. So I'll simply right click here and say annotate mark, and then I'm going to paste that into it and say OK. I'm going to format this, and I'm going to remove the line. I'm not going to have any endpoint on the line, and I'm going to remove the border. And I'm going to make this much wider, and I'm going to decrease the size of this to better match the size of this line in 9. And then I can left align it.